For more than 4 weeks, Nigerians in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and countrywide have endured lingering fuel shortage. The scarcity has seen a sharp hike in fuel price per litre from 690 naira to as high as 960 naira in some filling stations in the country. The price is higher in the black market, where vendors who litter the streets sell between 1,000 naira and 1,500 depending on the location. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited blames the scarcity on logistics in the distribution of products. However, there are concerns the situation may not be unconnected with the marketers' speculations about the landing cost of fuel into the country. The scarcity persists amid controversy over fuel subsidy. Revelations that NNPCL had secured presidential approval to spend Federation dividends on petrol subsidy, or is it shortfall, is shocking to many. This begs the question, is fuel subsidy back? Well, to help us make sense of it all, we have Executive Director, Center for Transparency Advocacy, Faith Nwadishi. Nwadishi has vast experience in the extractive industry. She was a member of the National Stakeholders Working Group of Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NAITI. Glad to have you on the program, madam.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. Well, what a paradox. A country rich in resources and is facing fuel insufficiency. How do we explain that?
It's quite unfortunate. It's like living by the side of the river and you are taking your bath with soap entering
That's
into
a very
your eyes.
good one.
You know, it's been a thing of worry that we are so blessed a country in crude, and yet we don't have it in the country. It has been an issue that has plagued us from the very first time in the late 50s, when Nigeria struck its first commercial production of crude. And at that time we were producing about 5,000 barrels per day. Now we're looking at about between 1.7 to 2.3 million barrels per day. So it's quite shocking that we have so much riches and yet we cannot benefit from it.
You have been in the extractive industry. What's the worst that you have seen, or what shocks you the most?
So what shocks me the most, as somebody who well understands a few things within the sector, is our definition of subsidy, whether we are paying subsidy or we are not paying subsidy. It's important that the government comes out clean. Remember that in the last dispensation, when we were talking about the fact that subsidy had gone, the NNPCL came out to say they were under recoveries. So they removed subsidy. Nobody was talking about subsidy, and they were talking about under recoveries. Now they're talking about shortfalls. You know, it's just changing, you know, the name,
the lexicon,
there's lexicon a little bit around it. And so Nigerians are confused. You know, May 29 last year, when the president came on and he said subsidy was gone, just that pronouncement, the marketers, the people who sell, where we go, the filling stations, immediately they change the pump price of petrol. Now there's speculation that because the landing price is higher, perhaps government is going to increase it. They are keeping it. But you know, the most shocking part is that you go to a filling station, there's a booming market in front of that filling station. And in that filling station, nobody is selling fuel because there's no drop of fuel.
So from your experience, why do you think the government is not forthright about this? Instead, it chooses to change the words to describe the situation.
So it's all boils down to impunity and the fact that the government doesn't really take us seriously, and the people are not holding government accountable. It's not enough to say, okay, we are going out to protest. We need to know what the issues are. We need to know who to hold accountable. We have legislators in the House who should kind of play oversight on the executive, but we're not holding them accountable. There are some legislators who don't even have a constituency to go back to, and then we keep voting them and getting them back into office. Why would in Nigeria, you know, such blessed country, and we're exporting crude and bringing back refined products? We have 4 refineries in this country that are not working, and we have those refineries in the last 4 to 5 years, more than that. We have people who are working within those refineries and they are being paid salaries, they are getting promotion, they are getting their dues, and the refineries are not working. The last time we were told that the refineries will work in December 2023, it didn't work. They came out to say August 2024, it didn't work. Now we're looking at September 24. Who is holding government accountable? And as far as we're not holding government accountable, we're not asking them to give us account of what is happening through the national assemblies, then they will continue to do business as usual.
So on this particular matter, you see a strong role for the legislators?
Definitely. The role for legislators, because come to think about it, it took us over 20 years to have a legislation that governs one of the most important sector in this country. The
Petroleum Industry Bill.
the Petroleum Industry Act that we have. It took us we kept advocating for that bill to pass, and that the bill has passed. We are here to implement it. In fact, the bill outlaws the issue of subsidy. So anybody that's paying subsidy right now, actually we should take them to court. But you see, we're always having this back and forth and all of that, and the National Assembly is not helping us, because they are the representative of the citizens. They're the ones who should carry out these investigations. For instance, they have just carried out investigation on crude oil theft. What was the outcome of that investigation? Now you have an NNPCL that was created because of the Petroleum Industry Act that is accountable to the people, because the fiduciary agents of the NNPC are the Federal Ministry of Petroleum and the Federal Ministry of Finance, and yet they say the NNPC is not accountable to the people. We did an FOI we sent to NNPC and said, please, can you tell us how much you have saved for subsidy over the years? They got a lawyer, a senior lawyer, to write to us to say NNPC is not accountable to the people, and so it's no longer under the FOI. But you can get the National Assembly to ask them the right questions and report back to citizens.
To what extent does fraud and mismanagement contribute to the current fuel scarcity problem?
110%. All hog. It goes all the way, because the entire value chain. Now, for instance, the Petroleum Industry Bill has created a provision for independent people to also bring in product. But before the advent of the Petroleum Industry Act, you had NNPC as the sole importer. Right now, as I speak to you, NNPC is still the sole importer. So people have to buy from NNPC. And then we have, for instance, 445,000 barrels per day that we're supposed to use as domestic consumption. Nothing is happening. I just told you that people are working in refineries, 4 refineries in this country, and they're getting paid, and nobody is asking, what is your job description, what is your output, and they're getting paid, and nothing is happening about it. So from the entire value chain, you see, it was late President Yar'Adua that first talked about the cabal within the oil and gas sector. That cabal is still very strong and active, and they are working at every point that you see that, because why would a government say, oh, there's no longer subsidy, and an agency that reports to government comes to say, oh, we are doing under recovery, or we are just having some shortfalls and we are paying for that? Where is the money going to? Why aren't you telling us? Because part of what the sufferings Nigerians are going through right now is that you have made subsidy savings. How much is that saving? Where are you applying it to? It's not enough to say, oh, governors are now taking more money from FARC account. Is it because we have saved money from subsidy? In the last few days, we've just been told now that we're still paying subsidy. So where is that money coming from? How are we going to account for it? What about our future generation? Because if we go and taking loans, all of that, to do all of those, to make us look good in the face of the books, what it means is that some people would have to pay the consequences of that.
So everybody sounds really helpless. Does it mean that this cabal is more powerful than the country? I mean, why can people not be brought to account?
So the reason why people cannot be brought to account is that those who are supposed to hold them accountable have been compromised one way or the other. Because if you have an oversight function over somebody and you are in the same field playing with the person, there's a limit to which you can bring that person to order. So it's important that people come clean to say, oh, I'm not part of this. This is what it is. The National Assembly is having one interview, one investigation or the other. We are not seeing those reports. Let's see the reports. If you say you have talked about crude oil theft, for instance, let me shock you a little bit. In 2012, crude oil theft was just about 4%. But as at 2023, we were told that it had gone to 70%. Crude oil theft. Now, the National Assembly had more than 2 investigations on the issue of crude oil theft. We have not had that. We have not had that information. What has happened? What is happening? Who should we hold responsible? The Navy now, like a few days ago, said they intercepted some people and they recovered that crude that was stolen. Whose crude is it? We have had conversation with people who work within the industry, and they know that all of these international oil companies that are working in Nigeria, if they take crude out, you will know, because there's a dating system that they have to know that this crude belongs to Shell, this belongs to Total, this belongs to Egypt, this belongs to all of those oil companies. How are we not saying that? Why are we not saying that the crude that is stolen belongs to a particular oil company? Rather, what we are hearing is that they are all divesting. They want to leave the country. They want to leave everything they have done, and nobody is holding them accountable. We need to be able to do that. We need to be able to find out people who are stealing the money. Why is it that our depots are not working? Because marketers are complaining that they go to the depot to buy, but because the owners of depots are not giving them the amount that NNPC has sold to them, they are giving them at premium price. That is why they are having that problem. So why is it that the depots, the Nigerian old depots, are not working? I grew up in Benin City. There used to be a Benin depot that we have. You could see the economy that was developed in that area. So if our depots are not working, it means that the economy around those depots have died. And then it is private owners' depots that we are now using, which definitely will increase the price of the price of fuel. So why are we using private depot rather than using Nigeria government-owned depot, where you will go put your product and they will sell at that price that they got?
It obviously speaks to the corruption within the system, and it all sounds dangerous, and you work in this industry. Do you fear for your life at all at any point?
I fear not just for my life, the life of my children and my great-grandchildren that will come. The reason for this is that we as a country should have what we call savings. I don't know if you remember when we had those sovereign wealth issues.
We have a sovereign wealth fund. Yes.
Right now, nobody is talking about, they have not even told us how much that we have saved so far. These are supposed to be what we call future funds. So if we have this, and you know that there's energy transition, what it means is that eventually we may have stranded assets. We may have petrol so that we are not able to use it because the world has gone ahead of us. But we have that. We need to maximize the usage of it. What are we doing with it right now? If we don't have plans on how to properly utilize it so that we can make the best out of it, we will wake up one day and the world will leave us behind. We will now begin to describe Nigeria, that country that was once rich in crude oil but couldn't do anything with it.
Given the current trajectory, what do you predict for the future of the country's fuel supply, and do you think there are any positive developments in the horizon?
Well, positive developments are because I believe that things can always turn around if you have the right people, committed people, patriotic people. We need the National, right now it is actually the National Assembly that should step in. The National Assembly should take the big stick and play their oversight, ensure that proper investigations are done, and when you get your information, ensure that whoever is along the line that is there, let us see those people. And when you see them, I'm telling you, the small fries along the line would definitely take a cue. So it's important that we do that. We still have great potential in this country. We need to utilize our resources, but we need to utilize it in such a way that it helps in development, it helps in keeping the people, taking away these issues of hunger, and then looking at the majority of people, rather than looking at the 3% or 1% that is up there, ruling everything and ensuring that they stay that way. We need to be positive as Nigerians. And Nigerians need to also wake up, understand these things. When you come and talk about oil and gas, say, no, it's too difficult, it's too
complex,
technical.
yes.
No, I don't think I've talked anything about, I've said anything too complex here. It's about the fact that you live in a riverine area, but the water is so polluted that you can't even go there to have clean water to drink. You can't even go there to take a bath because you don't have enough clean water that will put food on your table. So that's the same thing we have with our oil and gas sector. With the gas, with the oil that we're not even talking about gas, with the oil that we have in the country, the fact that we have an intervention of crude for 445,000 barrels per day, we have 4 refineries that are not working, we have those private refineries that have come on stream, people should begin to ask questions. Because if you're not able to afford the petrol, children will soon resume. How are they going to get to school? If you're not, people are buying 900 naira now. I had to drive far distance to be able to get 700 naira to buy. The black marketers are selling 1,200. That's 12,000 naira per 10 liters of petrol in front of a petrol station that has been licensed. that has been licensed to sell petrol. Yet people who are not licensed in jerry cans are the ones selling petrols. And they may even sell they may sell petrol to you that will destroy your car. Think about the amount of money you get to do that. Then you will know that when we are talking about oil and gas issues in this country, petrol issues in this country, it affects everybody.
I mean, there's also the smuggling of petrol through the borders.
Yes.
It's happening across Niger and other countries. And how do you view that?
So, and that's also the lapse that we have within our among the security agencies. There has to be this synergy. We have to be able, because the whole idea in the first time when we were discussing the issue about subsidy, I said, no, you know, our neighboring countries are selling Nigerian petrol and they are selling it cheaper because we are smuggling it. Our people are getting it at cheaper rate, and that's why you have increased the cost, the premium cost that people get. Even though you say you are putting subsidy, you want to remove subsidy because you don't want those people who are smuggling. It is important that we put the right security agents on ground. We put the right systems in place, because, for instance, if you go to get fuel, there is a mechanism that you need to know what is the volume that a particular tanker has taken. So if it's 33,000 liters you have taken, and you're supposed to start from point A to point B, and you don't get to point B, you find out what the problem is and sanction that person. You don't just give them a slap on the back and say, oh, we are giving them some penalties, because that fuel did not leave from A to B. I just came here, there's a distance I follow to get here. So from here to there, you know the distance. If I don't get here, you begin to intervene and find out why the reason I didn't get here when I was supposed to get here. So people are taking the fuel that is meant, already signed out to go to filling stations, and they're not taking it, rather they're taking it out. So when they don't get to those filling stations, what do you do to the owners of those filling stations? What do you do to the owners of the trucks that came and carried the petrol, 33,000 liters, and never got to where they're going to?
So as it pertains to scarcity specifically, what are the short-term measures to alleviate the current situation? So
I remember growing up, when I was a youth corper, I served in the NNPC. I remember
which state was that?
In Lagos State. Okay. I served in the NNPC. So there was this scarcity, and you will have NNPC staff go out with measuring sticks. They go to filling stations to find out what volume of product that you have. So God help you, if they come to your filling station, you are under lock and key, and they find out that you have product, they will seal your filling station. But we're no longer seeing that. So you now see a situation whereby people, because of the impunity, rather than do that, filling station owners, marketers are ready to just give out money to say, oh, please just turn the other eye, let's do this. I tell you, we like policing a lot, but policing happens and succeeds in Nigeria when the people policing have not been compromised. Because when you get a Nigerian and say, this is a law, don't do this, and the person is prosecuted, the news will go around, the next person will do the right thing. But you say, this is a law, this person breaks the law, and you give the person a slap on the wrist, and he or she goes away, the other person will do worse than the first person, because there are no consequences for doing wrong.
Is it possible to rebuild trust in this sector and regain the confidence of the public? How difficult is that going to be? Because we obviously need it.
It's difficult, but it's not impossible. It's difficult, and that's why I keep saying the National Assembly. They are the direct representatives of the people. How many times did they go back to the constituencies to hold a town hall and say, oh, on this issue of fuel, this subsidy, now everybody is saying government is paying subsidy. Come out and explain to your people what it is. Let them know how they can engage this and help you. Then that's where we can begin to build trust. But you're sitting down in the national, whether the red chambers or the green chambers, and you're not relating with to your people, you're not giving them information. It becomes more difficult to even begin to build that trust, because people don't have information. So you have institutions, one information comes out here today. We're saying we have 445,000 barrels of crude that we should use. We have 4 refineries. You say refinery will work in December. It didn't work. You didn't tell us why. You come to say refinery will work in August. It didn't work. Now we're looking at September to make the refineries work. Tell the people what the true nature, what is it that is the problem, so that they can begin to understand from that point of view. But you don't do that when you're living so ostentatiously, you are having this flamboyant kind of living, and you're telling people, please endure and sacrifice. The sacrifice will actually start from the top to the bottom.
Since we're back to that issue of subsidy or shortfall, to use the government word, how do you think this impacts the national budget and the priorities of government expenditure as well?
Definitely, we cannot meet. And you know that a lot of the agencies are also complaining that even though you have this budget, the cash back into the budget is another thing. This is August, and some agencies of government have not received cash back into their budget. So because we are recycling, because we are not coming out to tell Nigerians what the true situation is. What is the truth? Just tell us the truth and let us know how we can tackle it. There are Nigerians who are working in other countries, oil-rich countries. They are the ones helping the economics of those countries. We can have those people come back and help support the government, and then we chart a new way on how to understand it. But at this time, people need to know what the truth is, so that they can know where exactly they can come in.
And so, what do you think is motivating this approach of going through the back door, not explaining things in black and white? What is motivating that approach? Impunity.
Nobody is demanding for accountability. Nobody is asking. If I have my legislator come back home, I'm rather looking at how much she's going to give me, how much, what if I need keke or I need the bicycle or something. He gives it to me and I praise him as the best that has ever happened to us. So people are not asking the right questions. People are only looking at themselves. We are not looking at the collective. You know, this collective that makes us Africans, makes us Nigerians. Your brother's son is your son, your uncle, you know, this kind of cousins, we don't really have that within our African culture. So what we are seeing right now is that you get into a position, you want to hold it on to yourself for you and you and you alone without looking at the collective. So people should be interested in these issues and begin to ask the right questions. If we don't do that, people will get away because nobody will get. The next day you come and then we'll still vote for them. We'll say, oh, it's their turn. I remember I used to live in one of the Niger South states, and the governor who didn't do very well, the father came out and said, oh, you know, my son didn't do well, but you know, when you go to school, you fail. The teacher will say you should repeat. So repeat again. So we have those kind of sentiments rather than demanding accountability for those we have put in office, for those who are holding our natural resources, who are holding our wealth in trust for us, using it for personal gain. We think that, oh, it is because it's their turn. We shouldn't say anything. But people should demand for accountability.
But also, when you look at the shortfall that we're talking about that is being paid, probably the dissatisfaction of the public is one of the reasons why the government has to sort of hedge it, because if it doesn't, the cost of fuel would be at least 1,000, if not more than 1,000. Can you imagine what that will even do to the economy? The amount we're paying now, it's already destroyed everything in terms of cost, whether it's transport. It's like a chain, it's like a cycle. Every single dot is connected. So can you imagine if that shortfall is not paid at all?
Can you imagine if our 4 refineries are working?
Okay,
and we are refining our 445,000 barrels per day, and then we don't have to import. We have the raw materials. What stops us from that money we're using to pay for subsidy? What stops us from refining here and exporting rather than bringing home? It's the same thing. You just go to your backyard, fetch your water, and you send it across the country for them to purify, and you bring it back. It is not just only affecting our oil and gas sector, it's affecting everything. You have the agricultural sector where we produce groundnut, cassava and all of that. People come, take away the groundnut, and they send back and bring us groundnut paste. Do you understand that? What stops us from investing in ensuring that we add value to what we have, so that we become not just a crude oil exporting country, but also a refined product exporting country? Considering the population, in fact, this is a market. This is where we have it. You have the crude. You bring people. You are signing contracts with people, and you are saying, if you are producing 10 million liters per year, or all of that, at least 20% must be refined within the country to meet our local consumption. How do you give to people where you don't have?
Isn't this where the Dangote refinery comes in?
Yeah, this
and
is
smaller refineries as well.
Smaller refineries. We have modular refineries that are already working. I am not a fan of the Dangote businesses and all of that.
Why not?
Because I have seen across the line. Now you have the Dangote refinery that's supposed to refine 650,000 barrels per day. But at the same time, before you make a commitment to a private business that is refining 650,000 barrels per day, you have one that is supposed to refine 445,000 barrels per day, and you have not made the same commitment. We have had, you know, before this issue of saying, oh, the refineries are not working, we started hearing turnaround maintenance. We started hearing, oh, they were going to sell the refineries to their friends. We started hearing all of that before even the Dangote refinery came on stream. Now, Dangote refinery came on stream, and we're still where we are. Why is that? The same thing that is happening within our electricity. Like, you see, why can't we use our gas to generate electricity, for instance? We have more gas than crude in this country. Why can't we use our gas? Somebody is selling generators because they want to run generators, so our systems don't work. And that is the entire value chain of the fraud and corruption that you see. And at the center of this pain is the people, and the people must know that this concerns us. Both those children we have given birth to them, and those that are yet unborn. We need to ask the right questions, hold people accountable, so that we can begin to address it now. Because I read something the other day. A lady went and she said she was going to give about 10,000 naira to somebody. Right. Just asked for little thing, and the person did something else. So, from our little, the interactions amongst ourselves, we see that explode into the society. You see government people that are supposed to be accountable to us, they're not accountable. Right. And there are people who are willing to say this man or this woman that is not accountable to us is doing the right thing.
Right.
Even when it affects them.
Mrs. Faith Nwadishi, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time.